Hello there, here with a video, one that I was quite surprised I've never done before, to be honest. I'm going to be reviewing this album today, Hot Rocks 1964 to 1971 by the Rolling Stones. It's a compilation album. Ordinarily I don't really review compilation albums. In fact, I think I've only maybe done one or two in all the years I've been doing this now. But I can't believe I haven't done this one, because this one is quite a significant one for me, because this is the album that got me into the Rolling Stones. Arguably, it's probably the album that got a lot of people into the Rolling Stones. Anyway, I shall show you this vinyl copy I own. This is the front cover, which everybody knows. The back cover, which, yeah, cool photo. And then the gatefold. I need to be careful here because it's sort of damaged. There you go. So I'll put that on there. One thing I will say about the cover, it's an iconic cover, it's an iconic photo of the band, but as far as I'm aware, it's obviously Mick, Keith, Bill and Charlie, and I think it's Mick Taylor who's the fifth member from what I can tell. I think that one there is Mick Taylor's silhouette, which I've always thought is, you know, Brian Jones is on the vast amount of this album, so really it should be a photo with him on the front. But when this came out, Mick Taylor was in the band. Anyway, like I say, this is a compilation album, so in terms of Stones albums I reviewed all the Stones albums from Satanic Majesties up until Goat's Head Soup. So any track on this album that is from Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed or Sticky Fingers, I'll have reviewed. In fact, I think Get Your Ya-Ya's out too. Any of the earlier stuff I've not reviewed, or the non-album singles I've not reviewed. I will do them eventually. But yeah, so we'll go quickly into the background here for this album. There's not too much to say because it's a compilation. This album was released on the 20th of December 1971 in America, although here in the UK it wasn't released until the 21st of May 1990, which was to coincide with the Steel Wheels, the Urban Jungle Tour, in 1990. I believe at the time when it came out in the US, it got to number 4, and here in the UK in 1990 it got to number 3. This album here is the Stones' best-selling album, which says something. You know, arguably this is their most famous stuff on this album, their most famous stuff. So, you know, if you're gonna have a Stones album, this is a good one to start with. It's where I started. It's where probably most people start for the Stones. However, with most of their pre-1971 releases, which this is, the Stones had no control and no input in this album whatsoever. This was done entirely by the lovely Alan Klein, whose name has cropped up a few times in videos on this channel. Yes, Mr. Adolf Klein. Basically, he was the Stones' manager, and around 1971 the Stones split from him, and then they found out that he owned the copyrights and basically everything that they'd done up until that point. The Stones owed nothing, which is why this album only goes up to 1971. So yeah, it's a bit sad really, isn't it, that the Stones lost everything. As a side note, the Beatles also would have, the exact same thing would have happened to them if Paul McCartney didn't save them from Mr. Klein by suing them. But that's a story for another day. So yeah, even though this is the Stones' their best-selling album, it's probably maybe their most famous. There'll be a lot of people out there who say that this really is all you need for the Stones. I would argue against that point, but there will be people out there that will argue that. The Stones themselves had absolutely no input in putting this album together. So the album itself, it consists predominantly of hit singles, B-sides and album tracks. As I go through the track-by-track review, I will talk about some of the tracks which are missing from this album, some of the ones that have gone on, which I'm a bit puzzled by why they've gone on. And yeah, like I say, because obviously the whole Klein situation and the fact the Stones don't own anything they've done pre-Sticky Fingers, it does, you know, it's awkward, because if you want to say to someone, right, if you want to recommend the Stones to someone and an album, most people will recommend starting with this one, but the problem is it stops at their peak. They're not over the hill yet when this album ends. You know, the amount of great stuff that is missing from this album that came afterwards, like Tumbling Dice, Angie, Miss You, Start Me Up, It's Only Rock and Roll, you know, it's all missing. And I think there has been compilation albums that has since included where they've actually worked with Klein to create a full career spanning one, but I think 40 Licks came out for the 40th anniversary. I think that was the first one, and then Grrr, which came out for the 50th, but you can't get Grrr anymore. So, yeah, there's none of that anymore. That one, although I think 40 Licks got reissued last year or the year before, so that one is available again, but it's not the best compilation album. This is a great one, it cuts off a bit early. Anyway, I think that's kind of all I have got to say for you here, so we're going to dive into the track by track review. It opens with Time Is On My Side. This was originally released on the Stones' second album, The Rolling Stones number 2, which means there's nothing from their debut album, The Rolling Stones, on this album. But Time Is On My Side, this is a great tune, a fantastic opening track for the album. It's a cover. I should have wrote down who did it originally. It maybe says on the album, but I can't bother getting it out to check. The chorus, the "You'll Come Running Back" bit, I love that bit. But yeah, this version as well, there's two versions of this song. There's the guitar version and the organ version. This is the guitar version, which is the superior version, in my opinion. But yeah, Time Is On My Side. It's a great song. It's a great opening track. Yeah. Great song. Right, track 2 is Heart of Stone. This was originally released on Out of Our Heads. It was never a single, this song, so it's an album track. It's not my favourite song, and I'm not entirely sure what it's doing on this album. Yeah, in my opinion, a track from, if you're wanting to go early Stones, It's All Over Now is not on this album. It should be on this album. It's one of the Stones' most famous songs, and it's not on here. I know it's a cover, but that should be on here. In my opinion, in place of Heart of Stone. It should be the second track on this album. Well, baby used to stay out all night long. But Heart of Stone itself is not a bad song, but at the end of the day, it was only ever an album track, and as we get further on into this album, there is a few album tracks which deserve to be on here and should have been singles, but this ain't one of them, you know. So yeah, after that, track 3, Play With Fire. Same thing here, really. This was originally released as the B-side to The Last Time, and yet The Last Time isn't on this album. I mean, in what world does that make sense? I mean, Alan Klein is was an absolute prick, but I always thought he was probably quite an intelligent man. But he can't be. I mean, intelligence would say, common sense would say, you're going to put the A-side on, not the B-side. The Last Time was one of the Stones' first #1 singles, I think. What was their first #1? I think their first one was Little Red Rooster, I think. Don't quote me on that. But The Last Time, this was the first song they wrote that got to #1, I think. And it's not on the album. So yeah, and yet its B-side is. Makes sense of that. So in my opinion, The Last Time should be on here in place of this. But Play With Fire is here, so we'll have to talk about it. Great song. It is a great song. It's an acoustic ballad, and it's a cover. Yeah, but I just don't think it should be here. Got some nice lyrics though. Owns a flat in St. John's Wood, so must be a posh person. Right, track 4, here we go. Can't Get No Satisfaction. You know it, I know it, we all know it. You wouldn't be watching this if you didn't know it. Originally released as a single, and you know, the riff itself makes it an all-time classic. Yeah, Satisfaction. It's an all-time classic, you know it, I know it. What is there to say about it? It is one of the defining songs of the 60s. If you say the 1960s and ask to sum it up with music, this will be one of the songs that comes up because it's a classic. Keith's riff, it is one of the most iconic riffs of all time. I mean, if you're a guitarist and you can write a riff like that, I mean, yeah, you deserve all the fame you get. I believe Keith dreamt this riff as well. I mean, yeah, and he woke up and I think he recorded it, or he done something to make himself remember it, and yeah. So, I wish I had dreams of riffs like this. I'd have to learn to play the guitar first, though. Lyrics on this song are brilliant. It's arguably the first truly great Jagger Richards composition. They wrote a few songs before this, like The Last Time. I think the first song they ever wrote was Tell Me. Heart of Stone was also an original composition. But this is probably the first the first proper song they've wrote, which is like truly, truly great. Yeah, I love the song, but I'll be honest, it's never been one of my favourite Stones songs. If you ask me to rank or pick my top 10 favourite Stones songs, I can guarantee you Satisfaction would not be in the top 10. I don't know if it's just because I'm tired of hearing it. It's overplayed, maybe. I don't know. But it's always, I find strange that throughout most of the 70s, the Stones never played this song live. It was never in the set. It didn't come back until like 1981, I think, on the tour around that period, around the Tattoo You period. But yeah, Satisfaction, it's an all-time classic. What is it to say? It's one of the defining songs of the 60s, even if it's not one of my favourite Stones songs. Right, track 5 is Tears Go By. This was originally released as the B-side to 19th Nervous Breakdown. It is a Jagger Richards composition, but originally it was released by Marianne Faithfull, who was Mick Jagger's girlfriend around this period. And a very nice singer, got a very nice voice. So yes, she did this originally. Mick and Keith were, I think, too embarrassed to do it for the Stones. And even when they did, it went out as a B-side. Anyway, nice little acoustic ballad. I don't know, if I'm honest, if it deserves to be on this album. I don't quite get why it's on here. Perhaps Little Red Rooster should be here in its place. Again, Little Red Rooster has never been one of my favourite songs either, so I'd maybe be saying that about that if it had been on here. But it was a pretty big single, so why is it not here? And yet, a B-side is... I don't get it. Nice strings on this tune though, courtesy of Andrew Long Oldman, who was their producer at the time. I think this is the first time the Stones will have used strings. It's definitely the first time strings appear on this album. Anyway, track 6, Get Off My Cloud. This was originally released as a single. It's a great tune. It's fantastic live as well. If you've ever seen them do it live, yeah, it's on the chorus with their hey, hey, you get off of my cloud. That bit. Yeah, it just works really well live. You can hear on this song they're really starting to find their groove now. They're starting to find their feet, particularly Mick and Keith as songwriters. They're really starting to come into their own. Yeah, fun lyrics on this tune. The telephone is ringing. I say, hi, it's me. Who is it there on the line? So a voice went, hi, hello, how are you? Well, I guess I'm doing fine. It's 2 a.m. There's too much noise. Don't people ever want to go to sleep? Just because you feel so good, does it mean you have to drive me out of my head? I said, hey, you get off of my cloud. Hey, you get off of my cloud, etc. Arguably, this song is somewhat quite reflective of the times. It's not got a riff like Satisfaction, but when you listen to the lyrics properly, they're kind of quite similar to Satisfaction. It's basically saying you can't get satisfaction in another way. So yeah, Get Off My Cloud. Arguably, it's not one of my favourite songs, but it is a good song. It does deserve to be on here. Yeah, decent enough. Track 7, Mother's Little Helper. This was originally released on Aftermath, which I believe is the opening track on Aftermath. An album I have not reviewed yet, and I really should, because it's probably the first truly great Stones album. However, I've never really cared for this song, even on... I mean, it's alright as the opening track on Aftermath, but to be here on a compilation album... No. So yeah, in my opinion, this shouldn't be on here, and then later in the album, in its place, I think a song like She's a Rainbow should be on here, just to represent the psychedelic Stones, and arguably, I mean, it's a pretty famous song, She's a Rainbow, and it's not on here. Decent lyrics on this song though. What a drag it is getting old, kids are different today, I hear everybody say. Again, it's somewhat lyrically a bit similar to Satisfaction in what the lyrical content is trying to say. Yeah. So yeah, Mother's Little Helper, it's never been one of my favourite songs, but it's decent enough, I suppose. Right, track 8, 19th Nervous Breakdown. This was originally released as a single. I don't know if this is maybe going to be a controversial opinion, but if I ever listen to Hot Rocks, I will start the album from this song and then keep listening from this point, because from this point onwards, it's just banger after banger after banger after banger. There's nothing you want to skip. There's nothing really after this where you think, what's that doing on here? So yeah, 19th Nervous Breakdown. I bloody love this song. Guitar is great throughout this. That bing 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 bing. Lyrics are fab. I love I think it's the third verse. On our first trip, I tried so hard to rearrange your mind, but after a while, Start that again. But after a while, I realised you were disarranging mine. So yeah, a great lyric. I think you were still in school when you had that fool who really messed your mind, and after that you turned your back on treating people kind. On our first trip I tried so hard to rearrange your mind, and after that I realised you were disarranging mine. Said the same thing twice there. There's an interesting alternative version of 9th Nervous Breakdown. It was on YouTube. I don't know if it's still there. I'll try and remember to link it below if it is. But it's a different lead vocal, and I'm not 100% sure. But to me, at least, it sounds like it's Brian Jones singing the lead, which he obviously never did. And because he never did it, we don't fully know what Brian's singing voice sounds like. But it sounds like his speaking voice. It sounds like how he spoke. So I would assume it's him. I'm pretty sure it's him. I'll try and remember to link it down below. It's an interesting version, hearing Brian sing the lead. I don't know if it is him, why they did record it with him singing the lead. I don't know if it was ever considered that he would sing it, but yeah. The chorus as well, that here it comes, that bit, brilliant. Seen them do this song live last time I seen the Stones, which was 2022, on their 60th anniversary tour. I think they did this song second that night. It was at Liverpool, and yeah, really good song live. I've still got it. Right, track 9 is Paint It Black. Originally, this was released as a single, and let's be honest, I mean, you must know Paint It Black. I know Paint It Black. You know Paint It Black. It's an iconic song. It's an all-time classic. Who doesn't know this song? You probably struggle to find someone who doesn't know this song, and if they don't know it, they must live under a rock. Again, like Satisfaction, this is a very defining song of the 60s, more of the counterculture. By this point, the Stones did have the anti-hero hat on. I think Keith said the Beatles got the white hat, the Stones got the black hat. The Beatles were the heroes, the Stones were the anti-heroes. This song further reinforces that. There's sitar on this song throughout this song. This enters the period where Mick and Keith have fully taken over Brian's band. So Brian, because he couldn't write a song, at this point is basically playing any instrument he can find, and he seems to have this unique ability where he could play any instrument. I'm sure I've worked it out before. I've read somewhere or another that I think throughout his life he's known to have been able to play over 30, 40 instruments or something on records alone. He probably could play other things as well that never got recorded, but what a talent, and what a waste of a talent. But yeah, he's on the sitar on here, and it's very, it arguably makes the song more iconic because, all right, that riff from Keith, the but you've got Brian strumming along on a sitar, which just takes it to another level. This song, it just makes you want to have a riot, really. Not that I'm saying we should all go out and have a riot, but this song kind of makes you want to go and smash something up. Don't go and smash anything up, but this song makes you want to. But yeah, great song. Right, after that we've got Under My Thumb. This was originally released on Aftermath. There's marimba throughout this song, which effectively is just a type of xylophone, played by Mr. Brian Jones, and arguably it's what makes this song. I don't think this song would be what it is without it. Ding, 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 ding. This is a sign of a great band when I can sit here and just hum the riffs. But yeah, Under My Thumb, brilliant song. Perhaps in this day and age, the lyrics are a bit questionable. But then you could also argue that if this was a female singing it, there maybe wouldn't be as much uproar, but it's because it's the bloke singing it. But yeah, this song, it also works brilliantly live. I think it was on the 40th anniversary edition of Get Your Yayas Out. They released Under My Thumb on it, and sounds brilliant. This was also the song they were playing at Altamont when the stabbing occurred. I know on the film it's made on the film to look like it was Sympathy for the Devil they were playing, but it's not. It was Under My Thumb. So yeah, another great song. As is the next track, Ruby Tuesday. This was originally released as a single in 1967. It was a double A-side single. The other side of the single's the next track. 1967, I have often said, is the greatest year ever in music, and it kick-started with this single, with this song and the other song. And it just sets the tone of the entire year. It's a beautiful ballad, this song. By this point, Mick and Keith were brilliant, brilliant songwriters. And again, Brian here, he's still on all these instruments that you wouldn't really expect on a pop song. He's on the flute, which again, the song would be completely different without Brian's flute. It wouldn't be as good, in my humblest of opinions. It's one of my favourite Stones choruses, this. I mean, it's brilliant. Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday. Who could hang a name on you? When you change with every new day, still I'm gonna miss you. Yeah, the lyrics. The lyrics are fab. Don't question why she needs to be so free. She'll tell you it's the only way to be. Dying all the time, lose your dreams and you might lose your mind. Ain't life unkind? Brilliant. As is the next track, which is the other side of the single, even though it was a double A side. Let's Spend the Night Together. This is one of my favourite Stones songs. Once upon a time, I used to say this was my favourite Rolling Stones song. It's probably not anymore, but it would easily be in the top 3, I would say. The piano drives this song. Ding, 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 which is played by Keith for years and years and years. I always thought Brian played the piano in this song, but he doesn't. It's Keith. Who knew Keith was such a good pianist? Yeah, it's a catchy song. The lyrics are fab, and I love the backing vocals. It's one of those ones where the backing vocals kind of answer the lead vocals. Don't hang me up and don't let me down. Don't let me down. Sorry, I can't sing, and I'm aware of that. Songs like this are precisely why I love music. It's just fun. It just makes me smile. It makes me happy, this song. And that's what music should be about. Yeah, Let's Spend the Night Together. Brilliant song. Right, track 13, Jumpin' Jack Flash. Originally, this was released as a single, and it's a classic. It's Jumpin' Jack Flash. A lot of people will argue that this here is where the Stones began their peak. From this point until Exile on Main Street, 1972, the Stones were on a completely untouchable streak, which I would agree with. I mean, Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street, to do those 4 albums back to back, whoa, untouchable. Yeah, this was the start of the Jimmy Miller years as well, where he was producing. This was the first thing they did with him, and what a thing to start with. The riff. Guess what? The riff's iconic. I think it's kind of a bit controversial, the riff, because we don't fully know who wrote it. Bill Wyman claims he wrote it on an organ, but obviously Keith will claim that he did it. So who knows, but it's a great riff, whoever did it. There is potential that this could potentially be the greatest rock and roll song of all time. I mean, I would argue it probably is. And a contender for the other greatest rock and roll song of all time is also still to come on this album. Yeah, it's a brilliant chorus. The lyrics are great. I adore the song. It's Jumpin' Jack Flash. I mean, it's great, great music. It's brilliant. It's just, yeah, there's nothing to say. It's great. Right, after that, we've got Street Fighting Man. This was originally released on Beggar's Banquet. Again, very reflective of the 60s, this song with its lyrics, with the counterculture, and particularly the civil rights stuff going on in the deep south of America. This song's kind of reflective of that, even though it's singing about sleepy London town. Just no place for a street fighting man. But I don't think there was any street fighting required in London in the 60s. That was in the deep south of the United States where it was required. So yeah, like I say, it's another riot song, this. If you're not having a riot to Paint It Black, you can have a riot to this song instead. I'll be honest, it's never been one of my favourite songs, this, but it's still a great song. Yeah. Speaking of great songs, the next track, Sympathy for the Devil. This was originally released on Beggar's Banquet, and again, it's a classic. I think this was the first Rolling Stones song I ever heard, so we'll be going back to about 2010, 2011 here, and I was just little back then, a little, well, I'll have been 12, 13, I think I'll have been then, and even though I was far too young, I bought a game called Call of Duty Black Ops. And this was when Call of Duty was good. Anyone remember that? And one of the missions on there, you are sailing a boat down the rivers in Vietnam, and Sympathy for the Devil is playing on the radio. That'll have been the first time I heard the song. That'll have been the first Stones song I probably heard at that point. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And yeah, it's just sort of gone on from there. Again, these lyrics, they're very reflective of the 60s counterculture. The opening lyric, I love it. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. Stole many a man's thing and taste. My mind's gone blank. I love the lyric as well. Shouted out who killed all the Kennedys when after all it was you and me. That was changed last minute because originally it was just about JFK, but obviously just while they were recording this song, Robert Kennedy got shot too. So it was who killed all the Kennedys. They changed it. Yeah. Bass on this song is fabulous. It's played by Keith as opposed to Bill Wyman. Bill, I think, is just playing shakers on this song. But the bass on this is brilliant. And the piano is also brilliant from Nicky Hopkins. Apparently as well, Brian's playing acoustic guitar on here, but you can't hear it. But he's there playing it apparently. There is a film of the band recording this song. If you've never seen it, it is called Sympathy for the Devil. And it is by a French avant-garde artist called Jean-Luc Godard, who died just not so long ago, I don't think. So yeah, the film, it's a film of two halves. Half of it is the Stones recording Sympathy for the Devil, which it is a brilliant thing to witness. It's effectively like the Beatles Get Back, where you're watching them build it from the ground up, from basically nothing into what it became. You've probably seen the footage actually, it's been used a lot, the footage, where they're recording it. There's brilliant footage of Charlie being made to sing the backing vocals, the woo woo, and he obviously hates it. But the other half of the film's all this like obscure 60s avant-garde art, which is pretty rough going, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I wish they'd release a version which just has the Stones doing Sympathy for the Devil. I'm not interested in all the 60s avant-garde stuff in the film. So yeah, if you can find it, give it a watch. It is worth watching the Stones portions of it, but the rest of it, just skip it. All the avant-garde stuff. Anyway, after that, we've got Honky Tonk Women. This was originally released as a single. Guess what? It's another classic with an iconic riff. I met her. Yeah. I should stop singing today. Don't know why I keep doing it. Brilliant lyrics. Just, met a gin-soaked barroom queen in Memphis. She tried to take me upstairs for a ride. Quite edgy stuff to be singing in the 60s, but again, it's kind of the counterculture stuff, like the look at you to the parents sort of thing, the previous generation. Chorus, very catchy. Today, actually, interesting fact, this was the Stones' last #1 single. They have not had a #1 single since Honky Tonk Women in 1969. I mean, it's still possible. They're still going that they might get a #1 single. They've had plenty of #1 albums since then, but for some reason, they never got another #1 single, despite the fact there was a lot of great stuff they've done after this. But yeah, Honky Tonk Women, it's a classic. I love the song. Right, track 17 on the album is Gimme Shelter, which of course was originally released as the opening track on Let It Bleed. It's a classic. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? It's a classic. Brilliant riff. I mean, that opening with the riff from Keith and the backing vocals from Mary Clayton is just... This song, I mean... I think when I did my Let It Bleed review, I said this, but it must have been incredible to buy this album, well, buy Let It Bleed in 1969, put the needle on the groove, and it start with this, with that intro, and be like, oh, it just, yeah, it is incredible. Arguably, this song, it came out originally in December 1969. This is the death of the 60s, this song, that whole hippie, trippy dream of the 60s. It's dead by this point. This song came out. This is singing about war and the realities and the horrors of war, the rape and the murder. It's all just one shot away. And it's arguably still going on in the world. This song is just as relevant now as it was in 1969, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, the highlight of this song, it's got to be Mary Clayton. I mean, you listen carefully. If you can even hear Mick Jagger go amazed by her in the background, he goes, woo, while she's singing her rape murder bit. Yeah, brilliant song. I adore it to bits. I never get tired of this song. I don't think you could get tired of this song, could you? Could you get tired of Gimme Shelter? I don't know how. Right, after that we have Midnight Rambler, but it's the live version, which was originally released on Get Your Yayas Out, but obviously the recording version is from Let It Bleed. I've never liked this song. I don't get it. I've never understood it really. what the appeal with it. It just goes on far too long. On here it's about 9 minutes, which is quite short for Midnight Rambler, because if you go and see them live these days, Midnight Rambler is about 15-20 minutes long, something like that. So I wrote here, this is what is known as the bar song or the toilet song, because when they start this, if you're at Stones gig and you need to get a drink or you need the toilet, this is the song to go, because you won't miss anything, because when you come back they'll still be doing it, because they spend like 15-20 minutes doing it. To be fair to it, it is better live than the recording of it, but why on earth it's on here, I don't know. After that, You Can't Always Get What You Want. This was originally released on Let It Bleed, although an edited version was released as the B-side to Honky Tonk Women. If I say a classic, would you be surprised? Because it's another classic. It's a ballad. It's a brilliant ballad. Obviously, it's got the choir at the start, which in my opinion, it goes on a bit too long. That's what I like about the edited single version. It cuts out the choir and it just goes straight into the guitar and then Mick singing. I prefer that version. Personally, the choir, it goes on too much for me. But the song is brilliant. Brilliant lyrics. I saw her today at the reception, and in a glass was a broken... My mind's gone blank. You can't always get what you want, like remembering the lyrics when you need to. Yeah, this song, there's a live version of it, which is on the Brussels Affair live album from the 1973 tour. The version of You Can't Always Get What You Want on that, in my opinion, is the best version of it. It's brilliant. Right, after that, we have Brown Sugar, which was originally released as both a single and as the opening track on Sticky Fingers. It's another classic with an iconic riff. I mean, if you know Brown Sugar, you wouldn't have made it this far into the video if you didn't know Brown Sugar. This is the other contender, in my opinion, for the greatest rock and roll song of all time. It's either this or Jumpin' Jack Flash. The song itself is about the horrors of slavery. So yeah, it is a song about slavery, and it's a pop song about slavery, which means the lyrics are a bit controversial to some people. And unfortunately, the Stones have now stopped doing it live because Mick doesn't want to offend people. But Mick, grow up here, get it back in your set. I know you won't be watching this, but luckily I've seen the Stones do Brown Sugar in the past live. But if I went to see the Stones live and it was my first time and I didn't do Brown Sugar, I'd feel robbed. But yeah, Brown Sugar, it's a classic. It's a brilliant rock and roll song. And then we have the closing track on this album, Wild Horses. Originally, it was released on Sticky Fingers. Again, guess what? I'm getting bored of saying this now. It's a classic. It's a beautiful ballad. Mick's voice is perfect for this song. There's been a lot of people cover Wild Horses. It's probably the Stones' most covered song, I would say. I don't know that for certain. That would be my guess. If I had to guess what the Stones' most covered song was, I would say Wild Horses. But none of them do it justice. Not that I've heard all of them, but I bet none of them do it justice, because Mick Jagger's voice is perfect for this song. Just the way he sings it, his vocal delivery, it's just brilliant. Yeah, lyrics are fab. And the chorus, I really like the chorus when Keith sings along with him. The wild horses couldn't drag me away. Wild, wild horses will ride them someday. It's a brilliant song. A brilliant way to close off a brilliant album. So, Hot Rocks, a compilation album. Do you need it in this day and age? In the day and age of streaming, you can now stream a playlist of the Stones' greatest songs and you will have everything. It won't end abruptly in 1971. It will keep going, because arguably the next track that should be coming along is something like Tumbling Dice, in my opinion. But as it is, this is a great album. If you have not heard the Rolling Stones, I'm very surprised you made it this far into the video. But if you haven't and you want to, start here. Start here as you mean to go on. Don't start with a studio album. Start here, because some of the greatest music you will ever hear is on this album. It got me into them. It's got probably countless people into them. Yeah, it's an all-time classic, Hot Rocks. So I think that's all I've got to say for now. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon on a very near future video thing. Professional. Thank you very much. Ta-ra.